Was annoyed because his stepdad had been using it since his grandma dropped it off. I asked, why is your stepdad using your new car that you haven't even driven yet? And he says because his stepdad just totaled his about 5 days ago. Little background. Stepdad is a blue-collar worker with a white-collar taste. Thinks he deserves all of the best things because he's the man of the house. He didn't even buy that house. He moved into the house that my cousin owned already. Once, I was over at their house for dinner, and he demanded the largest steak because he was the man of the house. That's what we're working with here. So I call Vanessa, and I asked her what's going on, and she said, since my husband totaled his car, and he didn't have full coverage, he's going to take Jake's, and I'm going to buy Jake a used car. I blew up on her. I said, I'm not buying your husband a car. I thought it was absolute BS the way she made it sound like I was contributing to buy a car for Jake. Here's where I might be the jerk. I called the grandmother. Grandma's upset. The car is in her name still. She told her daughter Vanessa her husband is not allowed to drive it. Now Vanessa is telling me that I'm the jerk because I told her mother about how her husband is essentially stealing her son's car, and I don't understand everything going on. All she wanted was my help, and I made things worse for her. I want to tell her to leave her crappy husband because all he does is take, but I'm trying to contain myself. Update 1. Took the day off to get down to the business. Nailed down some timeline issues. Jake got his car from his grandma on a Monday. Wednesday, stepdad totaled his car. Started using Jake. Jake told me that his stepdad was very upset he had a nicer, newer car than him. He got into an argument with his wife about it. I think he totaled his car on purpose. It would explain why insurance isn't covering anything. Heading over to the grandma's house now. Talking about the money Jake's grandfather left for him, and possibly getting Jake out of the house. Family tree. Vanessa and I are second cousins. Our mothers are first cousins. They were raised together by their grandmother, so they were very close. Jake's grandma is my mother's first cousin. Jake calls me Uncle OP, but technically he's my second cousin once removed. I'm almost 20 years older than he is. Not the jerk. You stopped a thief from stealing something big. You did the right thing. I also think your cousin was just as much of a thief, and I bet her son has lost a lot of respect for his mom. Not the jerk. Vanessa and her husband are thieving jerks. You had every right to reach out to your nephew's grandmother. That said, I certainly wouldn't trust Vanessa on any joint gift givings in the future. Not the jerk. Lying to you about what your money would be going towards is a jerk move. I wouldn't go so far as telling her to divorce the guy, because that's liable to cause some long-term damage to your relationship. But you totally did the right thing calling Grandma. It's her money, and it was intended for her grandchild. Am I the jerk for not buying a new PC for my boyfriend? I, 24 female, live with my boyfriend, 27. For some context, we've been dating for 4 years and living together for 8 months. We live in an apartment I inherited, along with one more other house that I rent out and some cash inheritance. Now on to the story. Me and my boyfriend, we both love playing video games. We both have full-time jobs, but still find time to play together as well as separately with our own friends. He's a much better player than I am. He plays tournaments and competitions, whereas I just play for fun. A few months ago, my boyfriend started talking about some new PC and other items he wanted to upgrade his setup, and how he was saving up for it. I was okay with it since we have separate finances. He doesn't pay for the utilities, but splits grocery, which wasn't an issue because I had extra income from the rental property. I thought I could use my inheritance money and get myself an expensive set upgrade as well. I took suggestions from YouTube and some friends. I scheduled the delivery for the day that I knew he won't be home all day. The setup came, they sent someone from the store to set it all up for me. I used the PC for a while and it was amazing. My boyfriend came home during the evening and saw my new PC. I was so excited to see his reaction, but his face remained very dull. He looked at me and asked why it was on my side of the room. I told him it was because it's mine. He asked me to confirm that I bought his dream PC setup for myself, and I said yes. He got visibly mad, but then said, "It's useless for you. We should just swap. You don't play well and won't be able to use it to its full potential. You can have mine." At first, I just laughed, because I genuinely thought he was joking, but then I realized he was being serious. I told him no. I said that I bought this for me. He blew up at me and told me that I need to buy the same one for him as well. When I said no again, he started yelling about how unfair I was being, and how I wouldn't be able to appreciate technology like that since I'm too dumb to even understand the specs. By that point, I was losing my crap, so I told him to get out. He grabbed a few items and left to stay with his best friend. Now his best friend and a few other friends are blowing up my phone, saying that I shouldn't own something so expensive that I don't understand, and I could buy him the same setup too since I can afford it due to the inheritance. I don't have any loans, so it's not like I'm saving the money for something particular in the future, which is making me doubt if I was the jerk. Edit. To everyone saying that it's kind of my fault for buying the exact same setup he told me about and flaunted in his face. I do understand your point and take responsibility for it, but he never really mentioned any specific models. Like, he would say how this brand has launched some really powerful item in the past few years, or that brand has such amazing monitors. I did know the brands he was referring to, but when it came to purchasing, I depended on YouTube reviews and suggestions from my gaming friends. It was purely a coincidence that it happened to be exactly what he wanted. I do understand that I should have been maybe more aware, but I genuinely didn't know that it would offend him, since I wasn't doing it out of spite. If anything, at the back of my mind, I had thought, like, we could have twin setups eventually, and make cheesy TikTok videos on weekends. Entitled much? He lives rent-free, doesn't pay for utilities, and only pays for half the groceries. Are you kidding me? Girl, he was demanding money from you. Why would you take that? Not the jerk. Help by packing the rest of his belongings, change the locks, and put his junk on the front stoop. Karen loses her mind because I'm deaf. So, some backstory first. I work at a large grocery store chain. As someone who stocks groceries, replaces items that have been left or returned throughout the day, and various other chores around the store. It's a pretty small store, so most of the employees can do all of the tasks. So this particular night, I was putting away a cart of items that customers decided they didn't want, overstock, or were damaged. There was a separate area where damaged items went, obviously. Now, I should preface this with the fact that I'm not completely deaf. I can faintly hear things like slamming doors, loud phones, ringtones, or some things like that. Though I cannot hear voices at all, even loud yelling. While I am deaf, I know sign language, have a large pin and lanyard that I wear that informs people that I am in fact deaf. In addition to this, I have a small notebook that has a variety of pre-written responses to questions, sort of like flashcards. Though communication is difficult sometimes, I try my best to make things work, and I'm very prepared. Most people are understanding, work with me, and we get through the conversation. Some kind people even sign with me. That always makes me smile. I'm pretty young and don't look like the typical hearing impaired person. So when people sometimes get a little grumpy because I don't respond right away, they're very apologetic. Not this time. This is where the story gets good. Cast. We've got me, the deaf teenager. We've got Crazy Karen. We've got Nice Customer, Store Manager 1. We've got Regional District Manager 2. So I'm mulling along one evening and decided to get an early start on the overstock from the day, which was filling a shopping cart to the max. So this was earlier than I normally begin. There were more people still in the store as opposed to when I usually started. No big deal, I started anyway. About half a shopping cart later, I'm in the paper towel section when I feel someone roughly poke me in the shoulder. I jump and turn around, startled to see this lady. She's taller than me, and I'm no slouch. I'm 6 feet tall, or 72 inches. She's very thin, probably mid-50s, fizzy blonde hair, only held back by a hat atop her head. This was back in September of 2020, and of course, she wasn't wearing a mask. She begins to what I assume was yell, judging by the aggressive look on her face. I begin to point to my lanyard and ears, trying to communicate that I can't hear. According to the Nice Customer, who I will introduce in a moment, she was saying things like, "I'm talking to you. I've been trying to get your attention for 5 minutes." She then takes a step forward and grabs my lanyard, yanking it hard, causing it to unsnap from around my neck. She throws it to the ground. At this point, I'm very nervous, and I start to panic. I try to actually say, "I can't hear," but I'm not sure how it came out, as I've never actually heard my own voice. My significant other says it sounds very cute, however. It's at this point, the Nice Customer enters the picture. I see him round the corner. A 30-something-year-old man, I assume, rounds the aisle, and walks up to the Crazy Karen, asking her what the problem was. This is all that he wrote down for me, saying what he said after the incident. Nice Customer looks over to me, and I frantically point to the pin on my mask, and grab my notebook and scribble down, "I'm deaf, and I don't know why she's yelling at me." Nice customer turns to Crazy Karen and they exchange some words. Things like, "Can't you see he's deaf? Why are you yelling at him like that?" And responses like, "He's not deaf. He's just ignoring me because he's a lazy little jerk." This goes on for a few minutes, and I finally begin to cry, as this has caused a scene with people starting to surround us. It finally attracted the attention of two managers, Manager 1 and Manager 2. Manager 1 walks up to me, while Manager 2 walks to Nice Customer and Crazy Karen, who have now really started shouting at each other. Manager 1 knows sign and asks me if I'm alright. I say I am, and wipe the tears from my face, and grab my lanyard from the ground. Manager 1 tells me to grab my things and wait for her in the employee break room. About 15 minutes later, Manager 1 and Manager 2 walked in with a police officer. The Crazy Karen had been arrested. Manager 1 explains to me in sign language that Crazy Karen had been arrested for third-degree assault, and the officer needed a written statement and asked if I wanted to press charges. I happily say yes and give my statement. The Nice Customer stuck around, and I wrote him a thank you note. Manager 1 also gave him a gift card for being an upstanding citizen. That was by far the worst experience I've ever had with a customer, but I'm thankful for awesome people like Nice Customer, Manager 1, and Manager 2. Also, Crazy Karen got sentenced to a few months in jail, probation, and was fined a hefty amount, and I honestly hope it really messes with her life. I never meant to downplay any bad behavior or anything like that. I was simply giving my honest opinion, and I honestly hope it really takes a toll on her. Karen complains to our hotel, so I canceled the reservation. Here I am, working the front desk at the hotel, enjoying a perfectly normal Sunday night, when I get a phone call. It's 11 p.m., and most sane people have already decided to bed down in preparation for tomorrow. So imagine my surprise when one of my few remaining arrivals lets me know that they have a 1-year-old and that they need a crib. Cribs are on a first-come, first-served basis. These people are calling at 11 at night on the day of their arrival. I go and check for cribs. Shock of shocks, there are none left. The person on the phone insists that they put on their reservation that they need a crib. I go and look on the reservation. Nope, there is no such indication. I advise the person on the phone, the wife as it turns out, that we're out of cribs, that they're first come, first served, and they've all been taken. She hangs up on me. Fine, whatever. Maybe they'll buzz off and find other accommodations. Ha! You know darn good and well that's not how this story goes. Man walks into our lobby, tells me he needs to check in. Okay, I ask his name. He tells me, and I immediately recognize it as the name of the person who called before. Lucky me. He confirms that we have no cribs left, and launches into a tirade about how it's on his reservation. It's not. It's our fault if something happens to his baby, and he feels that the conditions are unsafe. He proceeds to try to argue every possible way to place liability on the hotel for his failure to prepare. Finally, I've had enough. Well, sir, I don't want you to be in a situation where you're unsafe. I'll just cancel your reservation, and you can contact the third party with whom you made your original reservation, and they can find you a hotel that has a crib. This guy is a lawsuit, and I'm not interested in listening to the story about his baby getting hurt through his failure to prepare, and now he's building the hotel. He smugly informs me that it's prepaid, and I can't cancel it. Want to bet? Watch this. I make the necessary clicks, and it's gone. Folks, I want a snapshot of the face he made when he realized that not only I could cancel his reservation, but I did. That wide-eyed, fleeting moment of shock and awe. It was at this moment that he knew he messed up. He storms out to his car, comes back in with his wife. You know, the one who hung up on me earlier? She tells him to shut up and shushes him. Good on her. That was a smart move. But alas, that's the only smart move she makes. "We have a 1-year-old baby," she says. "My baby is your problem. We can't go anywhere else. I don't want to try searching for another hotel. You need to bring our reservation back. I was really looking forward to trying to incriminate your hotel. We can't call the company we made the reservations with. If we don't stay here, I can't sue you for my ineptitude. We don't have any choice. I don't like the choice you gave me." This goes on, with both of them getting more and more heated. The husband threatening to dial 911. Good luck. They take at least an hour to get here, and they do nothing when they arrive. I start thinking I'm going to be stuck with these idiots forever, when the wife decides to bless me with her kindness. Thanks to this woman, I receive a solution to this situation, so I can get them out of my hair and make them someone else's problem. The solution? I am going to sue you, and I am going to film you. Oh, thank you, lady. Thank you for your help. Without your stupidity, I'm not sure how I would have gotten rid of you. I informed the woman that because she's threatened legal action, I'm no longer able to assist them, and they should speak to the company's lawyers. Turn around and go to the back room, close and lock the door. Come out 5 minutes later, and they're gone, never to be seen again. Say it with me. A failure to prepare on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. Also, per the title of this post, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Speaking of hotels, what's your favorite hotel you've ever stayed at? Please let us know. I'm quite fond of Motel 6 myself. Am I the jerk for banning my little cousin from my room? I, female 20, have a Barbie doll collection. I've been collecting them for my entire life. I have over 30 collectible and limited dolls, all still in box in perfect condition. They're on display in my room. My parents invite my little cousins over quite a bit, and of course, they come in my room sometimes to look at the dolls. I don't mind. They know not to touch. One of my cousins, let's call her Anna, who's 12, seemed particularly interested in my dolls. She was asking me which ones were my favorite, most valuable, ones I had the longest, etc. I was showing her my favorite one that I got it when I was a kid, and it's worth about $500. It's my favorite doll. After I finished telling her about it, we left my room, and we all went downstairs to chill. I noticed all my cousins were playing, except for Anna, who had disappeared sometime while everyone else was still playing. I didn't think much of it, just thought she was in the bathroom or outside playing. But after about 15 minutes, I got suspicious and went upstairs to my room. There was Anna, playing with my $500 Barbie doll. She not only opened it, but completely destroyed the box in the process.
Yeah.
My heart dropped. I lost
Sure.
it. I screamed at her and told her she was never allowed in my room again. She started crying, saying she didn't know she couldn't play with it. But that's a lie. I always
No
told her to
thanks.
look, not touch. It also felt suspicious she opened the one doll I told her was the most important to me. When my aunt came back to pick my cousins up, Anna ran to her saying I yelled at her for playing with my toys and banned her from my room. My aunt was furious with me and demanded that I apologize to Anna. I refused and told my aunt she owed me a new doll. My aunt told me no doll should be worth $500 and she will not replace it. My family is divided over this. Some are on my side, but some say that I can't expect my aunt to pay $500 for another doll. So, am I the jerk? Small update. I've decided to send this thread to the family group chat, along with proof of what the doll is worth. As some people have pointed out, the doll is actually worth nearly $1,000. I think I'll be able to get more family on my side, and hopefully my aunt will read it too, and see that she is wrong. Small update too. After sending this thread to my family group chat, I have everyone on my side. They understand that this isn't just a toy, but something of real value. Still, no word with my aunt, but I am hopeful my family will be able to influence her to replace the doll without having to go to court. Also, some of you seem to think I just had the doll laying around and was waving it in front of her, teasing her that she couldn't play with it. That wasn't the case. I've had this collection since I was a baby, so the dolls are no secret to anyone in my family. She also doesn't play with dolls, never has. The way she ripped the box excessively makes me near 100% sure that this was done on purpose. Tell your aunt to pay, or you'll let a small claims court decide, not the jerk. This. Plus, buy a lock for your door and no longer let any of them in your room unsupervised. Set up a camera too. This kid is way too old for this behavior, and you should definitely sue over the price to replace it, because you can never be sure you'll get a proper replacement for list price plus all the emotional investment. File the claim, and any flack you get should be met with, what kind of parent raises a kid to the age of 12 that doesn't understand not to touch or destroy other people's valuables? I have collectibles, and this hits home. I wouldn't bother with threats at this point. I'd rather go right to filing a lawsuit of around $1,000 or so and go from there. Not the jerk. I'd even threaten to take your aunt to small claims court. Your cousin is old enough to know fully well what she was doing. Buying a replacement is the least your aunt can do. She can't truly make up for the fact all of your efforts over the years of you treasuring and keeping that doll pristine and untouched have been deliberately trashed. The cousin even went out of her way to find out and target the doll most precious to you. If you don't fight to make them recognize the importance of your doll and the gravity of what your cousin has done, no one else will. $500 from their pocket to yours only goes part way to teaching them the lesson. Your cousin should be punished on top of that, but you only have control over access to you and your room from now on to levy that yourself. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you go ahead and sue your aunt or not? Please let us know.
$1,000 for a Barbie doll? Talk about a hedge on inflation.
Taking the work news to the news. I'm still unsure if it's really compliance, but my ex-employer announced some news regarding our jobs. It was obviously false, but instead of calling the BS, I treated it exactly as I would have if it was true, and it bounced back in their face. It was a while ago, when I was working in a community-based organization. We provided end-of-the-line shelter for people and did rights advocacy in a medium town, about 100,000 people. The salary was low, but okay. But most employees were there because they believed in what we did. The main problem was the manager. She didn't act accordingly to the set of values the organization was based on. She was grossly overpaid compared to employees, took everything personal, made sure we were cut off from the administrators, and created an atmosphere where people feared retribution. We were unionized, but after a few months, I realized no one was ever filing complaints, even for trivial matters, because they feared she was going to lash back at them. Turns out she had done it to a few people in the past. Once I figured I wasn't going to stay there much longer, I decided to sign all of the complaints I could. According to union, I could sign anything I witnessed, even if I wasn't the target, and figured I would see them to the end and leave. That way, administrators could claim not knowing, and there was a chance for my colleagues to have a better work environment. So, of course, the next few months were horrible. She picked on me regularly. Still, most people sided with me, at least privately, most of them fearing she would do the same treatment to them if they declared it publicly. One morning, she calls a staff meeting and explains that a large amount of complaints have been filed in the last months. Looks at me, and the cost to settle them or to pay the lawyers to fight them might bankrupt the organization, and everyone is thus at risk of losing their job soon. Insert ominous music. Panic ensues. My colleagues are crying. They're calling their significant others. A lot of people are begging me to take them back, stating she got the lesson. Some of them are genuinely upset at me. In my opinion, it was obviously BS made to turn them against me. I mean, the sole emergency housing of a 100,000 people city, annually filled at 115% capacity, would be closing for a dozen complaints where I'm not even asking for money in any form, over legal fees which are usually budgeted in advance? Come on, it's basic fear brewing schemes. Normally, I would have questioned it during the meeting or tried to reason with them afterwards, but that time, I decided to comply with the narrative and treat it as true. I left for my break and did what I would have done if we were really closing, appealing to the public outrage to help us fulfill our mission. I called the news, told them verbatim the morning announcement, the service hole it would create in the community, the job impact it would have in the city, etc. The local news picked it up. They called the manager and administrators about running the story, questioning how come there were enough complaints to threaten a 35-year-old pillar of the community services, asking what the complaints were about, etc. Before 4 p.m. that same day, we had another meeting to explain that we must have misunderstood the first meeting, as the organization was in no way, shape, or form in danger of closing. Sure, we must have misunderstood. Moral of the story: let those who brewed the trouble drink it. Too casual for work. For context, I have a few piercings, dyed hair, rainbow glasses, and a sticker-clad cane. People are going to stare anyway. May as well give them something to stare at. I'm also pretty casual. I afford expected respect to people, but especially since I work in fast food and only have a few coworkers, I, and my other coworkers and managers, don't see a reason to be excessively professional. I was hired with all of these visible and have never been told to remove them. Both GM and regional manager know. A new manager got hired. She met me about a week ago. Within 3 days of meeting me, she started commenting on a lot of my behavior and appearance, to the point of demanding I fix my appearance immediately. When I told her I didn't see how my appearance affected my ability to do my job, Now, I have no problem removing the piercings or dyeing my hair a more natural color, but my glasses are pretty necessary for my current situation. I can sort of see about 4 or 5 feet away with them. Without them, I'm basically useless, and nothing can fix it at this point. So I've stopped bothering with an ophthalmologist, and I speak to my coworkers the way they speak to me. We're all pretty casual and friendly. Also, the only thing she noted that was maybe against policy is the earrings. But we're technically allowed 2 stud piercings, and that's what I have. Either way, whatever. I was fine taking them out. But in a stroke of genius, I went, all right. I took out my piercings and tucked my hair into my hat. She decided to insist my glasses were just aesthetic. Because of course, real people who need glasses only wear black or metal frames. So I took them off and got sent back to work. At this point, everything is gray. So one of my coworkers led me back to my spot on the line. She then got on me about my performance dropping and accused me of doing it despite her. I told her I couldn't see, and then she started nagging me about how I needed to treat her with respect. She's not my friend. And once again commented on how casually I talk to people. So I drew inspiration from one of my favorite video game characters and started speaking like Fischl. Not well, but enough that it was obvious what I was doing. Alas, without my spectacles, 'tis but a blur. I also ignored her or pretended not to understand if she used any informal terms towards me. Those shenanigans continued until another manager came in, saw me without my glasses, and got on the new manager, and told me to put everything back to normal. Apparently, I look like a legal issue waiting to happen without my glasses and piercings. I overheard things like, I just don't feel appreciated for the work I do here, and Acer was being intentionally obstinate. I also overheard the older manager tell her that I am, in fact, legally blind and had every right to pursue legal action for an ADA violation. I don't know the laws well enough to know if it was, nor would I have had the money to sue, but the idea someone would assume I could made me feel a bit satisfied. I ended up getting my ability to wear my piercings returned too, endorsed by the GM and everything. Not the thing I cared about, but a nice pro. I'm pretty sure I've angered the new manager though. Oh well, I don't talk to her. She doesn't talk to me, and that's fine. She's been the subject of criticism by my coworkers though, and I'm pretty sure if your entire store has 7 active employees, you're not going to last long there when none of them like you. Am I the jerk for leaving the restaurant after my boyfriend refused to pay for my meal? I had lent my boyfriend some money a few weeks ago because of something he needed, and he promised to pay me back ASAP. He was supposed to pay me back 5 days ago, but something came up and he didn't. I tried to be patient. Yesterday, we had planned to go out with some friends at night for dinner. Yesterday, after I came back from work, I was robbed on the bus, and I had all my money and cards stolen. I canceled my cards, but the bank customer service told me my new card with my new details, both physical cards and the digital details for Apple Pay, would be available the following morning because the banks were closed that afternoon. So I had no money. When we went to dinner with my boyfriend and friends, I told my boyfriend if he could just pay me back the money or at least pay for my meal since I have no money. He didn't exactly say yes or no, just a simple, don't worry. After we ordered, he only ordered for himself and told me that he can't cover for mine at the moment, so I'd better not order anything and just have some bites from his meal. I was so mad and frustrated because he had promised to give me back the money. He then claimed something came up and couldn't give them back, but then ordered a nice meal for himself and just told me to get his scraps because he wouldn't pay me back, or at least for my meal. I'd be the only one sitting there with no meal in front of me. I said this is ridiculous, and I got up and left. Our friends now believe it was very low of me to get up and leave, and how I should have just been polite and stayed there. I can't quite understand that logic, but is there any way I am the jerk here? Not the jerk. You may want to reconsider your relationship here. Did you tell your friends or your boyfriend that you were robbed? If yes, and they acted like this, then they are not your friends. OP. Yes, my boyfriend was the first person I told, and I told my friends before we sat down at the restaurant. And none of them offered to pay for you? I stand by my comment. Some friends you have. Not the jerk. Get better friends and a boyfriend. Also, get your money back. At this point, she needs to leave that sorry excuse for her boyfriend and bring him to small claims court to get her money. She's never going to get it back willingly and is walking all over her. Excuse me? Your friend said what? OMG, I would be fuming. Your boyfriend completely humiliated you, and your friends who were there don't see this as a problem? Dump the boyfriend and the friends, not the jerk. OP. Yes, they also said I ruined the mood and caused a scene by leaving, and I made it awkward for everyone there. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know.
If that were us, I would have poured my drink all over your head before walking away.
Am I the jerk for insisting to be called doctor by my boyfriend's father? I, 27 male, have been dating my boyfriend, 26 male, for about 3 years now, and have known his family for a little bit under that. His father is a doctor, and when we met for the first time, asked me to call him Dr. XYZ. Edit. He's a PsyD for those wondering. I didn't know this was all that relevant, which is why I wasn't specific. Personally, I think this is weird, especially since he still insists on it despite me having known him for well over 2 years now. That being said, my boyfriend assured me it's just a matter of respect for him, because that is his professional title, and that I shouldn't think anything of it. He calls his father Dad, by his first name, but has told me that in the past, his dad sometimes asked to be called Doctor, similar to how someone would want to be called Sir. I just recently finished my PhD, and now am officially a doctor too. Like I said, I don't put too much stock into professional titles, but it is cool to finally be done with it, and I've been bragging recently, just because it's such a big achievement for me. When meeting up with my boyfriend's family, I told everyone that I had finished my degree, and they all congratulated me, including my boyfriend's dad, who told me, "Congrats, OP, but don't expect me to start calling you doctor." I wasn't really expecting him to do that, to be honest, but the way he said it really struck me, so I replied, "Why not? I've given you the professional courtesy." To which he said, "That's not the same." At this point, I'm really confused, because I didn't mean for this to turn into an actual argument, but I'm just really confused by the sudden shift attitude. I respond by saying, "I don't really see how it's different. I never understood why I should address you as doctor, to be honest, and was always told it was a matter of professional courtesy. Now, I'd like the same courtesy back, or I'm not going to give it to you anymore." The argument just sort of went in circles from there, until I eventually said, "Whatever, I'm just not going to respond to you calling me by my first name anymore," and did that consequently for the rest of the night. When my boyfriend and I got back home, he got mad at me for trying to one-up his dad and causing a fight. I do feel like I could have dropped it. Like I said, I don't really care about being called doctor, but at the same time, I feel like his dad's behavior was complete BS. Not the jerk. Stand your ground, OP. You are just as much of a doctor as he is. In fact, the title doctor was originally used to reference PhDs, while medical doctors were called physicians. So the title is actually more fitting for you. Edit. OP updated his post that the dad has a PsyD, not an MD. The audacity. OP, feel free to require that he call you doctor if he continues to insist that you do the same.